All right, so this is a fake fireplace that I built entirely from scratch. There's no chimney here. There was never a fireplace here. I made this out of wood. This is real tile. This is an electric insert. And the coolest part about this, in my opinion, you open up the mantle here. There's a television hiding down inside. So if you're like me and you like to watch television sometimes, but you don't want it to be the center place of your living room, this is a way you can have that. So you can have your fireplace, a mantle in a house that doesn't have one. This is a built-in. It's attached, screwed to the wall, screwed to the floor. This doesn't move. And it houses my television down inside. So if you want to see how I built this, stick around and I'll kind of go through the steps piece by piece. This is, I think, a project that can be done a lot of different ways. So I didn't film every part of it, but I did film kind of steps and instructions as I did it. So take a look at the timestamps. I'll have links below for things like the fireplace. I actually reviewed this fireplace. So I'll put a link up in the corner of the video if you want to take a look at this electric fireplace. You got lots of options for what this could look like. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so the footage of putting this together didn't make it through, but it's pretty simple. You're making the main box of the fireplace. If you're going to put an electric fireplace or something inside of this like I'm planning to, I think you probably want your TV encased in a box. So I have a 50-inch television, relatively small, I think, by today's standards, but including the room for the lift to go inside, the box that the TV kind of goes down into is 10 inches by 4 feet and 32 inches tall. So what this is it's basically the exact height that will allow the TV to go down inside this box when it's closed. Then the outer kind of part that's going to be the false fireplace, it's obviously the same width, 4 feet. You can make this. So yeah, it's 4 feet by 4 feet, and then the depth of the total box is 20 inches. So, obviously you can make this whatever size you want for your television or for your space. Part of the reason mine is so deep as a total is because I kind of wanted a shelf system on either side. And so the idea then is that the shelves are going to kind of hang back a little bit from the width of this. Whatever. This is a size I think that fits my space. It fits my television. You can obviously adjust it. And then all this is, I used MDF because I had it and it's cheaper. So this is a box that will hold the TV, that first set of dimensions I gave you. And it is open only on the top, so the TV can come up and down. Then the larger box is really just two sides, kind of in an L shape to go around the MDF. One piece across the top, an opening for the TV to come out of. And then I used a 2x4 on the back. Again, I had it from some other project. But I think the 2x4 just adds a little bit more structural support to the whole thing. So this is sort of the empty shell. Okay, so here it is framed in with 2x4s. So I basically made like a teeny tiny wall. So there's the box that has the lift in it. And then, yeah, I just made a kind of a box out of 2x4s because I want to use real tile and like a brick veneer on the inside, like a real brick veneer to make this look as realistic as possible. So yeah, you can see I've got this up on the bottom to be able to kind of bear the weight of all of that. You'll notice in the box that's going to host the fireplace, there's also two 2x4s across, also to bear that weight. And that I've used a router to kind of join the plywood to make this as doubly strong. So this weight of this is entirely borne by the 2x4s. 2x4s go up the sides, and then a 2x4 on the top to bear the weight as well. Really quick to zoom in on this box. I used router bits that are specifically sized for plywood, right? Because 3/4 inch plywood is actually not exactly 3/4 inch. So this is embedded a 1/4 inch. It's glued. And then I also, for strength, and this is on both sides, for strength, I left this quite big space here because this is going to be all behind everything and put in these metal brackets. So there are 8 of them. And then the back, just because I'm a little bit leery of this MDF, the back is just 1/4 inch ply. So yeah, this is all framed in a way that's meant to bear weight. And you can see I've kind of roughed it in the the fireplace, and I'll leave a link to this fireplace. And I actually reviewed this fireplace. You should be able to click a link on that at the top if you want to. Okay, so here's what it looks like closed in. It's probably better to do this out of one piece of plywood if you can, but whatever. I used a scrap, and because it's so heavily framed in, I was able to, attach the plywood to the kind of wood frame on the inside, and you'll notice that this is primed. So my hope is that it'll take the mortar for the tile work a little bit better than raw wood if it's primed. It just kills too. And then I pinned it in with some 1.5 inch finish nails to just hold it in place, and then I put lots of countersunk 1.25 inch screws in to hold this in place. And just think of this like drywall, right? So you want to get this as flush as you can. So I put a lot of effort. I didn't say this before, but I put a lot of effort. The 2x4 framing that's behind is like recessed by 3/4 inch. So this would come in and be flush with everything. I'm really not doing a tutorial on this. I'm really just kind of trying to inspire you. And part of the reason I'm definitely not doing a tutorial on this part is because I'm not very good at tiling. I mean, I'm serviceable at it. But what I will do is I'll show you the product I'm using. I got this from Menards. It is called Versatile, and it's this top one in the corner, which is called Barkley Blend. So you can kind of see in the picture that it has a few different kind of colors, and you can see this in what I've already laid out here. So I'll put a link from the company about their installation instructions because they're the professionals. A couple things I'll say. Definitely you want to kind of take at least one box apart and lay them out on the floor. Otherwise, you could really end up with a bunch of like the same color in a row. So you want to kind of try to mix and match. The company's website said to use dowels. So these are 3/8 inch sort of mortar joints. They say to use dowels, but if you have a table saw, you can just make your own 3/8 inch pieces. And yeah, so the inside of this is going to this is real brick. So the inside of this is going to actually be real brick. There's going to be a steel kind of access hatch there. So I just wanted to do a quick check-in on kind of how this looks as I'm doing it. All right, so here it is with all the brick veneer. If you do decide to do this, it's very much worth your while to put some effort in to getting the measurements. So if you look at this, the back is 3 bricks wide, and you have some tolerance in this, right? So you can basically do the arithmetic to just change your water lines such that you can fit 3 bricks. So yeah, I'm able to fit like exactly bricks from bottom to top, side to side. And then again, the walls are just 1 brick deep. So very little cutting, really quite easy to get this done. Okay, so moving along, I've got the brick and the mortar in for all of this. I've got my electrical access panel, which is 8 by 8. So, depending on how you're doing this, you may or may not need this. Like if you were just going to put candles or something in here, you just wanted it to look like a real fireplace with real brick, you don't need this. But I'm going to have an electric fireplace, and I've got the wall outlets back here. So you need to be able to access those for code. I've got this metal grommet glued into the access panel with Gorilla Glue, which bonds metal to metal. And it has this kind of removable thing. So you can fish the wire through all of this, and then a grommet is in there, and you can still, so it's kind of clean, and you can close the door, but you can still access the electrical work. And I've begun the work on the tile. So I really love the idea of wood and tile. And again, a fireplace would need, I don't know the name for it. You would need something to catch the ember by code. And so this is completely fake. There's no embers. It's going to have an electric fireplace in here. But I really want it to look like a real fireplace. So I cut away using an oscillating tool. I just cut away. Really easy to just cut away some of the hardwood and then put in tile. And this is such a small area that I just did it to the floorboards. I would love some idea in the comments about how bad of an idea that was. But the reason that I did this part of the tile first is because the next step is going to be the wood trim, which is going to be kind of a little bit covering this.
So I think, I'm not really, to be honest, I'm actually not very good at tile, and it really stresses me out. And so this is not a DIY video about how to do brick or how to do tile. This is sort of an idea video. But since I've done videos on the trim in my house, I will sort of briefly go through how I'm going to do the trim around this to match, just in the off chance that anyone cares about that. Otherwise, you can go ahead and skip using the timestamps below. If you have seen my door frame builds, so these are slightly thicker than 1 inch. I think they're like 1.5, but look like normal. Just a little kind of thing. This is going to go on here. My plan is like a 1/4 inch reveal on these strappings that we just put on the side. And then just like a door, 6-inch boards will go up, again with the reveal, up to where the top of the thing will be, which is going to go across here. So the cut will be here, and I've kind of pre-measured all of this, as you can see. So this is going to go on either side. And then I have an 8-inch board that's going to go across the top, but basically I'm going to finish the top of this kind of exactly like the top of the door frame, if that makes sense. And if it doesn't, you'll see what I mean in a second. So we could shoot in these blocks that go on the bottom, could shoot in these 6-inch ones after I make a cut, and then we can get to work on the tower. All right, so we've got these blocks on the bottom, the same as I would do around a door jamb, 6-inch boards that come up to the height. The way I measured these is I actually took a piece of what was going to be on the top and then used that to describe a line. And then the way you do these kind of craftsman style door tops, or at least the way I've done them, if you've seen in my other videos, you rip down a piece that is 1.25 inches by 1/2 inch thick, stain it on 3 sides. This is going to go here, and it's overhanging kind of past, right? So there's going to be the 8-inch board right here, and you want this to actually stick out past that by 1/4 inch. So it just adds a little bit of 3-dimensionality, a little bit of kind of junkiness to this style. So that's already cut. And then, yeah, an 8-inch board is going to go across the top. And just like a door, because we've got this kind of reveal here, you want this to not come to the end of this or even to the end of this. You want it to come to the end of these. And so if you measure this before you attach this piece, it's very easy to make that measurement off of the existing wood so that this all lines up. And again, what you're going for is that kind of chunky, very like square 3-dimensionality of craftsman style. For the tops of the built-ins and the top of the faux fireplace, I decided to make my own butcher block because I had a ton of these leftover 2x2s in the same wood that I'd been using. And so you literally just glue them up and clamp them. The thicker the better, just because you don't want it to buckle when you clamp it. So literally just lots of glue, lots of clamps. Now you're going to potentially get some cracks. You could use wood filler, but the easiest thing to do is actually like set your table saw to like, some shallow angle and just rip off some like really thin little strips. So this is like a triangle kind of wedge. There's no way I can film it. But then, yeah, you just kind of glue into the cracks. You glue into the cracks, jam it in. And then once it cures, which it has now, you just kind of, break it off on the top and sand it down. And then, the nice thing is this is the same wood, right? So the wood grain is going to be exactly the same. And then once it's all stained up, it should hide any of the smaller cracks. Obviously, if you have a planer, that's the best way to get this smooth. But I did it with just an orbital sander. So, start really coarse, get it smooth. And then I haven't gone any, I think I've only gone down to 80. And then when I break these off, I'll go down to 220 on the sides and on the back. So this is for one of the built-ins, but I'm going to do the same for the top of the fireplace, and I'll show you what that looks like. So here is the top. It's my homemade butcher block, just gluing together essentially 2x2s and sanding it flat. If you have a planer, it'll be way faster, but you can totally do it with an orbital sander. The only thing I wanted to just say about this is that I made this in 3 pieces. So I made this piece, which was the whole length, and then this piece. And then because this piece was so small, I was able to get really nice straight cuts on the miter saw. And actually, these were huge. So they were made, some pieces I already had. So there was basically something like this on either side of both of these. And so what I was able to do was cut the opening for the TV. This will be a trapdoor essentially. On the miter saw, nice straight cuts. And because there was extra on both sides, I was then able to glue this up. I put the door with some spacers, just some 1/4-inch plywood spacers. The door, clamped it all with glue, but obviously didn't glue the door. And then what's nice about that is you get a really nice square cut without having to worry about drill holes or anything. So not only is this like beautifully, perfectly square, but then the trapdoor itself is also kind of blemish free and square. And here you go. This is the trapdoor itself. Just, yeah, 2 cuts on the miter saw, and then, used it to clamp up the glue. And yeah, that's just a tip for how I did that. So if you make it in 3 pieces, do your cuts on the miter saw, then glue up the 3 pieces using this as kind of a spacer. You can get a really nice clean cut without having to do like drill holes and stuff. Obviously people can make that work, but I've never had a lot of luck using kind of drill holes and jigsaws to cut out a piece like this and have it look nice. So that's just my tip for how I did that. Okay, so here is the top attached, and I added some kind of, accoutrement to make it a little bit more interesting. This is just 3/4-inch trim like I've used in my crown molding, and 1/2-inch trim and 1.5-inch pieces just to give it a little bit more kind of three-dimensionality, chunkiness. The way I attached this was with 1.5-inch finish nails, but like driven up on an angle behind where all of these were going to go. And then with the door attached, I used a piano hinge. I had to get one that was longer than I needed, but it's pretty easy to cut it with a hacksaw and it looks fine. I just like the look of a piano hinge. Obviously, you can use whatever hinge you want. Now, what I wanted with this is I wanted to be able to push the button and have the TV kind of open the lid. The problem is that there's so little room in the back that the TV comes and pushes it, but then when the hydraulic lift hits it, it flings it open really hard. Another problem, so I added these handles just because it's going to have to be opened manually, and I think they look okay. I wish that I didn't have to do it, but I have these kind of vintage ones that I got off Etsy, so I don't think they detract from this. If you decided to set this up as a mantle, I think that they could hide in and amongst photographs and other things that you were going to have up here. So lift this up. Another mistake that I made is that I completely forgot that with the piano hinge like this, that you're going to have the thickness of the material itself sticking out into the opening. And the way I built this, and like now the TV lift is down inside everything behind tiles. The way I built this, the lift itself comes like basically flush with the back. So I had to essentially get a chisel and a sander and like open up this piece so that it's kind of flush, right? So this tilts back a little bit. I measured the angle so that this will come straight up. I think if I could do this again, and if I was a smarter builder who actually was good at any of this, what I would have done instead is there's 2 pieces of the 2x2 back here, and then it comes forward and makes the opening. I would have done just the one so that the lid actually went 1 piece back, so that the lid itself, I painted the inside black, so it's a bit hard to see, but there's a 2x4 here. You can see my hand going underneath of it. So there's a 2x4 here. So I think what I would have done is had this piece be part of the lid so that when this was open, this lip was above the 2x4 instead of above the opening. So just think about that if you're going to copy a build like this. And yeah, you can see I painted the inside black so that, from a distance, if it's open, it just looks, dark in there. But down inside, there's a power bar that goes down to the plugs
There's the manual controls for the lift itself. I don't have cable anymore, but there is cable wires in my house, so they're rolled up down there. And then this is one of the new digital kind of receivers. You need to pick TV out of the air now that it's digital instead of analog. Okay, and I need to say that these things need airflow, right? So, this is just a pretty picture right now. It's not actually heating, but the heating elements are in here. And if we pull this out, this is the air intake. And so I purposely built this with about an 1.5 inches of space up here. And if you look at this line right here is what came with the fireplace. And so this vent here I made. So if you go to the hardware store, you can buy, these kinds of pieces of metal. They come in whatever pattern you like. There was like a clover design or whatever. And so there was a clover design, there was whatever design. I thought this kind of worked with the style of my house. And so, the trick is just cut it however you need to. And, I did some bending, and I screwed it in to some screws that were in the top of this. I honestly don't know that much about different models of these things. So mine has the vent on the top, and I know from some of the reviews that people have installed this into openings and it has broken. So you need the airflow, right? There's this vent on the top. It sucks air in and it spits air out. So if you do not have some kind of vent situation going on, it's just not going to work. So, find out how your system works. Are the vents on the side? Are they wherever they are? And then are they on the back? In fact, actually, this has, there's no way to film it, but there's actually an inch or two at the back as well. There's about 1/2 inch on the sides. And so, it's electric, but it's sucking air and it's having heat. So you need to make sure that it has proper airflow. All right, so now that this is kind of all set up, you can push the button on the remote. And we can watch as our television rises up from behind our mantle. Yeah, there it is. You've got the TV that hides down inside the mantle. Yeah, so let me know what you think about this. If you like this video, leave a like. Consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out. Share with friends. If you hated it, let me know what I did wrong. I'm sure there's lots of things. In fact, I've told you several of them already. And there it is. I will catch you guys in the next one.